Today we're looking at how to adjust your TaylorMade M5 driver. Now, when it comes to adjustability, there's not many out there that can rival this driver. They say there's actually over 1,700 different possible setup combinations in this track alone. Now, before we get to adjusting your M5, what you also have really in this driver is a high-tech blend of carbon and metal with the familiar speed pocket behind the face for distance, inverted cone technology behind the face to enhance the sweet spot. And the big story in this club is that speed injected twist faces that are built hotter than the legal limits and then injected with resin into these two little red ports here to kind of bring them back to conforming. We're turning the driver over to look at the sole, and we then see the adjustability, the adjustable weight system here. In previous models, these tracks were different. The M1 had a T-track where there was a track running parallel to the face and the other perpendicular to it, similar to this. The M3 had a Y track, and now this M5 has what you could call an inverted T-track. Now you'll see in it two 10-gram weights in there that can be moved together or separately anywhere along this track to influence draws or fades, make the ball launch lower or higher, and change the spin that the driver actually puts on the ball. And on top of all that, you then have the loft sleeve where you can raise and lower loft, you can change the face and lie angle of the driver. So let's get adjusting. Now, if you've never used an adjustment wrench like this before, let's look at how the opening and locking mechanisms of the screws on the driver work. Now, to open any screw on your driver, you just place the wrench into it and you turn the screw anti-clockwise to open. And then to tighten any screw on the driver, you just do the opposite. You turn it clockwise, and these screws that secure these weights in place on the driver, when fully tightened, they make an audible click sound, just like that, to let you know the sleeve is safely locked in place and to avoid over tightening. So first of all, let's look at this inverse T-track, and let's loosen both of these weights here so that we can actually move them around within the track. Now, the standard or default position for the weights is when they're split evenly along the perpendicular rail like this to the face. Both are lined up behind the sweet spot of the face, tightened up and clicked. Let's call that neutral position. But if we push both weights as far forward towards the face as we can, again, always tighten and click before you get going, this is going to move the center of gravity of this M5 as far forward as possible. That's going to kill spin by about 600 RPM. It creates a lower trajectory. TaylorMade say 1 degree lower, and it will really suit the better players who tend to strike the ball out of the center of the face consistently, as it gets them a few extra yards really. Now, if we move both weights to the back of the perpendicular track and again secure them, the center of gravity then is moved back in the head, and this results in a higher launch and more spin on the golf ball, and that should be more forgiving. But if you want to find the most forgiving setting as possible on this M5, move both weights to the back and split them like this so that one weight is at both ends of the back track. That'll make this driver super stable and easy to hit. And again, because you've just moved 20 grams to the back of the head, it will really promote a high trajectory on shots. Now, if you want to create a fade bias with the M5, you will see the word fade there in the back track. And if you move both weights out as far towards the toe as possible and tighten up, that will set the M5 up for maximum fade, 25 yards of it in fact. And conversely, on the heel side, you'll see draw in there, and to feel the maximum draw position, you could put both weights over there. You'll notice the draw side is much shorter. Both weights will just about cram in there, but kind of awkwardly. But really, instead of extreme draw or fade, what you probably will find better as a setting is when you put one of the weights in the fade or draw setting and the other one along the perpendicular track, neutral, like this one. And remember, you can adjust these weights anywhere incrementally along the track to make changes just more subtly. There's hours of fun ahead of you on the range finding the right balance for you. But as they say on TV, that is not all. We also have the Loft sleeve to set up, so let's get cracking on that. So let's go ahead, and we have these tightened, and open the shaft screw here like this. And when you do, I usually hold it with my thumb and forefinger. When you do, the head can be pretty easily removed from the shaft. There it is, and there's the head being removed. And when you do, you'll notice numbers and settings on the tip of the shaft, and these indicate some of the different loft, lie and face angle options you can choose. Now this is what's called a 4-degree tip adapter, and at the time of manufacture and assembly, the shaft will be set to standard loft. See the STD loft setting here on the shaft, and this being a 10.5 degree driver, when the STD loft is lined up with this little arrow, the loft is 10.5 degrees, the lie angle is at its standard 56 degrees, and the face angle is square. Now there are actually 12 different notches or movements on the sleeve here, and each one increases or decreases loft by 1/2 or 3/4 of a degree. So what happens if we reduce loft? Well, if we rotate the shaft from the standard position to the lower position, this effectively reduces the loft of the driver by 2 degrees. So then it sets up effectively like an 8.5 degree driver. At this setting, the face is now going to be 4 degrees more open than normal, and the lie angle is 58 degrees. So it's really going to want to put a fade bias or left to right trajectory on any shots. Conversely, if we rotate from the standard loft setting to the higher position here, this effectively increases the loft of this 10.5 degree driver to 12.5 degrees. Now in doing this, you shut the face 4 degrees more closed than normal. Again, the lie angle is 58 degrees, so this will effectively put a draw bias or right to left bias on your driver. And you don't have to adjust all the way to the higher or lower settings. You can adjust incrementally along the little notches there in between to make the changes more subtly or more gradually. Now if you spin the tip adapter through 180 degrees, you'll see this marking here that says UPRT lie. And what you can do is you can secure the shaft in this position, and that puts the loft back at standard, that's 10.5 degrees again, but now the club sits 4 degrees more upright, and the lie angle has changed from 56 degrees to its maximum 60 degrees. You'll find this sets the club up for a draw, but it's a lot more subtle than in the higher setting that we talked about earlier. Again, from this upright lie or UPRT lie setting, you can make the loft lower or higher incrementally to make subtle changes. So that is how to adjust your TaylorMade M5 driver. First of all, set up the primary weighting and draw and fade bias with the weights in the inverse T-track on the sole, and then tweak your loft and lie to make this driver work best for your swing. And it's very important to remember that you can adjust your driver on the range or at any time before or after your round, but just not during it. Now, if you enjoy this video, please do press like and subscribe to the Golfbidder YouTube channel. It really does help us to get every like we can there. And follow us across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram to keep up to date with the very latest equipment news. From me for now though, it's Donal, out.